the words as people use them, I have found that they are creating a lot of aura of mystery or some very mysterious practices leading to some miracles. And while I try to tell that there is not any mystery about these things, these are simple acronyms for certain spiritual phenomena, and thus one should see how the scriptures, what the scriptures speak about it, and what great sages and teachers of the world like Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda has told about this Kundalini and its awakening, and what is the meaning of chakra. Here let us understand one very important thing, that in Indian philosophy, especially the philosophy of yoga and Vedanta, there is a very comprehensive concept of evolution. Evolution is considered not limited only to physical level, but there is the evolution of mind and intellect. There is again also the evolution of the perception, the consciousness, the spiritual evolution. All these are to be considered together, and not just evolution on the physical plane. Certainly the evolution on physical plane is to be understood, but then that is only a minor part in the whole process. First of all, I don't need to deliberate too much on it, because today we have to cover a rather vast ground, and that is why I am taking help of the technology so that we can cover some more ground, we can understand many more things in a short time. So this idea has been very beautifully described by Vivekananda in Raja Yoga and at many other places, that evolution as understood by modern science is only a partial evolution. The concept is not complete, and also there are many anomalies and the paradoxes associated with that. For example, the one very important idea he discusses is that how would you call something as evolution and not involution? Why you should consider that an amoeba is a lower stage and human being is a higher stage? Is there a particular reason to assume that this is an evolution and not involution, that is going back? How do you come to this conclusion? You only see a chain that going from one species to another species in course of time. But does it automatically mean that it is a betterment? Because for betterment, and this is a very important idea, and I was not really aware of this very simple thing till I read Vivekananda, that to know whether something is better or not, we need to have the idea of the ultimate best, so that the movement towards the best can be called as better. If we do not know what the final destination or the goal is, it is not possible to determine what is better. How would you determine that something is better and not worse? So it is like asking that whether I am on the right track or not. The question is, what is your destination? And if you say, I don't know the destination, then every path is right, every path is wrong. How can you decide right or wrong? So, to determine that this is an evolution and not an involution. You need to know that what is the ultimate goal. And so Vedanta therefore puts this idea very strongly, that what is the goal, as you read in Patanjali's Yoga Aphorisms, which is a great book of yoga psychology and evolution and understanding of how the gradual progress takes place in the expansion of our awareness. The very idea is explained in the first three aphorisms. The first is just that now I am going to tell you about yoga. So second is that this yoga means chitta vritti nirodha, the control of the modifications of the mind. And third aphorism gives the goal of that what happens then, that it is one gets established in one's true nature. That is the goal. And that is, otherwise the fourth aphorism tells that vritti sarupya mitaratra, otherwise you are identified with the various modifications. So therefore, this being the goal, this is the goal because it brings us to the ultimate fulfillment of life. This has been explained very beautifully in various Vedanta treatises and in Swami Vivekananda's complete works and Sri Ramakrishna's, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you find a very detailed and very satisfying explanations of all these ideas. So, therefore, this Kundalini, this idea is very central there as the awakening and then starting the evolution. The evolution kind of now begins. And evolution means all that which is already there in the potential form now gets manifested. Nothing comes new. As the student of science knows right from the middle school level that nothing can be added, nothing can be created, nothing can be destroyed. We only can change the forms. So this whole energy, whole capability, the infinite is already with us in the potential form, and then it starts manifesting. So this process of manifestation occurs at all levels. The most primary, most important of that is the level of our consciousness. Our consciousness is the most important thing. It is consciousness sometimes in the Western context, because the word is not very easy to translate from Sanskrit to English. In Sanskrit we would call it bodha, that one's awareness of I and the world as a totality. That is called consciousness here. The level of consciousness goes on changing. And as it goes on changing, our perception as who I am changes too. And accordingly, the perception of the world also changes. The actions also change accordingly. So, and these changes are accompanied with the changes in our preferences, our whatever priorities we choose for life, and so forth. If the perception is different, then the whole thing, it becomes our actions change. As that joke tells that, well, my husband is sick and needs treatment, one wife brought the husband to the psychiatrist and was telling. And the psychiatrist asked that, well, what is the problem? Well, he thinks that he is a chicken. And since how long it's happening? Oh, for last 5 years. Then why did you not bring him earlier? So, because we needed eggs at that time. So, now see, the perception like that is that the actions and all, they get exhibited in our awareness. So, if I see, for example, that there is just a pillar, but in dark I think that it is a robber standing there with the gun. And then I start shivering, I start planning, I look at my cell phone and think of dialing 911. But as I move a step closer or some light falls on it, I see that it is just a pole. And then the awareness changed, automatically my responses, my reactions, everything changed. So our life really depends on our awareness as to what we are and what is this world about us. And so these different things, they are called the different levels of awareness, different stations, they are called chakras. We will see what is the chakras. They are the stations or stops on this path of the evolution of consciousness, from inert to illumined, from no manifestation to infinite manifestations, from dumbness to divinity. It is a journey that culminates in infinite wisdom, total wisdom, and it begins at the most inert level, where all that potential is there but no manifestation of it. And therefore it is called Kundalini, is asleep there. This idea of Kundal means a ring, a coil. A coil is, it is referred to here as a snake sleeping, coiled. So when it is coiled, asleep, its powers do not get manifested. Just like us, when somebody may be a great musician, but then when that musician is asleep, the music doesn't get the manifestation. At that level, that musician is not a musician. Potentially that person is, but in manifestation it is not there. So we are all potentially infinite, perfect, divine, free, pure. There is no death for us, no birth for us. We are existence itself. We are beyond time and space, but it all gets this infinite manifestation is all coiled up. There is a level where there is absolutely no manifestation, and that is signified as this first inert level. And then where it reaches its culmination, then a person becomes divine, becomes infinite, becomes free, goes beyond the bondage of time and space. That is the ultimate goal. So there are now these gradations or stoppages, like when you go by train, say from Providence to New York, the train stops at different stations. So at different stations you see a different view. You are moving towards your destination, final destination, but then on the way you pass through different stations, and at each station there is a different view, different things are available there, a different town is there. So all these beautiful things are called here also the chakras. Chakra actually means, literally speaking, a wheel or a round disc. That is also, these are called chakras. Here it means the station of consciousness. And this, at each station, the specific awareness of I and world, and then corresponding life that ensues there. Although they are symbolically represented along the spinal cord, they are not really physical. This is sometimes very difficult to explain because here people see these pictures, the charts, and then they think that really there is in the spinal column, if you cut them you will find some disc and some wheels, or if you touch at some place that particular thing, chakra will get awakened. It is not like that at all. It is just a symbolic thing. Unless we see the symbology here, we will get very, very confused by these words. The most important cause of confusion and a sense of that mystery about these things is because the symbology is not understood and things are taken to be at the physical level. So there is really nothing physical about it. Not that I will be able to see the chakras by my physical eye. But yes, you can have a sense of them. As you evolve, you can understand these. And the yogis, those who have evolved, gone through this process, they have kept a record for our understanding. So we shall gradually see these ideas. I will tell you the names of these chakras. In the picture you can see, this is the picture drawn by Swami Vivekananda. It is, you see it right in the beginning of his book Raja Yoga. This picture was drawn by him, and then there are those 4 aphorisms of Vivekananda written there on the page facing it. If you see the copy of the book Raja Yoga, you will see a picture of Kundalini and these 4 very famous aphorisms of Vivekananda mentioned there. They come later in the body of the book Raja Yoga, but there, because these 4 aphorisms really give the whole substance of spiritual life, they are given there. First is, each soul is potentially divine. Each person or each creature, each being is divine. But how divine? It is potentially there. Not that we should just imagine now as bodies I am divine and then start trying to. We will not be able to behave like that. It is to be understood that at the potential level there is this divinity. And so there is no cause for despair. Each of us therefore has the opportunity to expand this, to manifest this divinity. And then next aphorism therefore says that the goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature and nature external and internal. The external is the physical nature, internal is the mental nature, the psychological these propensities that we have. All that needs to be controlled, and as we control it, then the potential starts manifesting. And this whole process is called the yoga. That the next 3rd aphorism mentions that this goal is to be achieved by the yoga of action or yoga of devotion, yoga of knowledge or yoga of psychic control, all of these, he says use one or more or all of these and be free. The fourth aphorism says that is the whole of religion. All other things like the scriptures, the dogmas, the temples, the churches, and so forth, they are secondary details. They are important, but as secondary details. So, this is the idea that how gradually one journeys. And this being the goal of life, we have to be very serious about it. That yes, I must make effort. Whatever I feel as the goal, I make concerted effort to achieve it. And so one must feel that this is the goal of life. And then these chakras are described. The one at the lowest level of the spinal column, that is called Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipur. We shall see as we see the next slides the description of these. But this is how the consciousness goes on getting expanded more and more. So we shall see the descriptions of these. The first is called Muladhara. The Muladhara at the base of the vertebral column opposite to anus, and then it is triangular and situated in the middle of a 4-petal lotus. Now beware, don't take it too physically. Yes, so just a 4-petal lotus, and it is not that is Muladhara. It is a symbology there. It is because it is the all potentially stored there. It is like a firmament, so it is described like that. This word literally means the root station, Muladhara. Everything is contained in it, like a seed or a root contains the whole tree. But then you don't see the tree as such there. That give me an apple tree and you give an apple seed. So it is, in a way, tree is being given, because if you cultivate it, it has the capacity to grow into a tree. But as such, that seed is not tree. So this is the potential state where everything is there, but not manifest. No manifestation of consciousness at all. That inertiatic existence, and then it is life of rocks and such things, where you don't see the manifestation of life, manifestation of consciousness. Not that life is not there. Life is there. Everything is pulsating with life, but we do not see that manifestation, that's all. It is there but not manifested. So this is that state where from then the evolution kind of begins. Then the next one is called Swadhisthana, where there is the awareness of I and corresponding awareness of the world. But this awareness is at a very lower stage, where therefore this I is running after the world for what? To get food. The basic requirement, that is the existence. I want to retain my existence. And what do I need for retaining my existence? Grab things from the world like food and so forth. So just to maintain my existence, and also to procreate, increase myself. So how can I increase myself? Multiplying. So the procreation, the tendency for sex, that is very prominent here. And therefore it is shown that irresistible activity limited to food and sex. Most plant and animal life stays in these lower two chakras. It is shown as 6-petal lotus in front of the reproductive organ. So this is the Swadhisthana chakra, the animal life, and that is only limited to these things. And therefore, you see, forget about pets, pets, they having lived amongst human beings, their owners, they start seeing so many different things in them. But just take the regular animals, you will see if they get their food and if they get their sexual tendencies get scope, then they are okay. Then they don't have anything to complain about. So that is because the life is limited only up to those things. But then next stage comes that it is Manipur. It is the concepts of various arts, science emerge. A psychological as well as intellectual evolution starts taking place there. It is therefore much more than just food and reproduction. Instinct gets subdued more and more by a rational behavior. You start thinking whether this is better or that is better. It is many such things like the accumulation of knowledge, the ideas of historical progress, accumulation of knowledge and wealth comes about. And it is a step from animal to human beings. Therefore, human beings have this idea of money. Do you know if any other animal has an idea of money? Do they have banks and stock exchanges? It is not even, that idea is only with human beings. It is this concept of getting more money, forget what you do with it, but just getting more money, that idea is with human beings. Getting more social power, getting more name and fame, that is all comes at this level. This is a step from animal to human, where you see a sense of morality also awakens. Tremendous power at the matter level becomes possible. There is still not much spiritual awakening, but a launching pad for it is ready. Therefore, it is good that people go and study different arts, awaken all those very important faculties. At least you come to a human level, where from then spiritual awakening can become possible. It is at this level, there is of course the other lower propensities are still very strong, and therefore these higher powers, money and so forth, whatever you collect, you use to satisfy the other lower propensities. That you get lot of money, what do? Instead of buying ordinary some bread and such thing, you go and buy lobsters, that's it, that they but it is spent in food. What I mean is spent in food and sex. So that is, even if you have lot of name and fame, it has been therefore not very incorrectly described by Freud that the tendencies, if you see, they go into these ideas of existence and procreation. Even if you evolve a lot in the sense of arts, sciences, cultures, you instead of staying in a small some hutmate or a cave, now human beings have come that far. And that is a big difference, See, amongst the other animals, You see, a mouse used to live in a hole 5,000 years ago, now also in the same type of hole. Human beings, see the change in living. The mice, they used to eat one kind, that food, whatever those things they would get, now they are also satisfied with whatever crumbs they get. But human beings, see the cooking. Do you know any other animal doing cooking? They don't have the cooking or the kitchens, no need. At that level, that is fine. But what is more important is for us is to understand that at that level you have both these gates open to go down and go up, like using this plane as a launching pad for spiritual evolution. Now you are human beings, the gates are opening for you, so go ahead. And then therefore you see the next chakra, the Anahata chakra, where the consciousness now, it is I am. That sense awakens, that I, there is a real big leap. Awareness of I as distinct from body, mind awakens. I am not body, I am not mind. I am a different entity from body and mind. Body and mind is my instrument. Like my computer, this body is a hardware, mind is software loaded on it. I use both of them. I am the user distinct from them. Body is like my vehicle. Just as I am not same as my car, I am not same as my body either. This feeling starts coming up. There it is therefore shown that you start feeling a light in the heart. A spark is seen in the heart that you know I am. And therefore you see people pointed to the chest, you know, I am. You say, I am such and such. You don't say, I am such and such, you see. So it is a very important leap, friends, that an awareness of I, different from body, different from mind. I as unchanging reality, and whatever changes is not I. And thus this search for who am I begins here. And in this chakra, this question becomes now dominant. Who am I? And then in answering this question, you reach your final destination. And that is why this chakra is considered the most important. The pleasures of food, sex, and intellectual and artistic pursuits becomes less and less important in life. You don't run after all those things because the question, who am I, starts becoming more and more important. A glimpse of intuition. There is still the pull to the lower chakras, but it is balanced by the higher pulls. So it is here that a spiritual aspirant really becomes spiritual aspirant. That you are now struggling to overcome that lower pull and go to the higher and higher planes of consciousness. You want to now see who you are really. And therefore, this chakra has that importance as for a spiritual person. One has to be struggling hard here because a determined struggle is important here, because otherwise this evolution can go down further. If you do not make a concerted attempt to rise higher, the life can still remain in the same these physical levels. So Sri Ramakrishna used to give an analogy that there used to be a mongoose probably there. His all analogy is very practical, and the mongoose was a pet. But then they didn't want that mongoose to go beyond the compound and go on the street. So there was a compound wall. So the people would tie a little brick to the tail of that mongoose. So the mongoose would start climbing on the wall, but because of the weight of the brick, it couldn't climb too far. It would come down. It wouldn't be able to cross the wall. So we should not tie such a brick and just go a little higher and come down. So one has to be particular about it. A glimpse of intuition. It is here that you go beyond reason. A faculty awakens, which is called intuition. In lower animals, it is instinct that human beings also have. One should not confuse instinct with intuition. The two things are very different. Instinct is lower than reason, but intuition is higher than reason. It transcends reason, and therefore it is a very different faculty that awakens here, a faculty of intuition. This Anahata Chakra has more description. In the next slide we'll see the hankering for God or true self comes at this station. Shraddha awakens. That Shraddha, as you can see, it is difficult to translate this word. Even greats like Vivekananda, they have said this, that I cannot translate this word into English. Shraddha, it is a dynamic faith directed towards certain very higher things. And so, in Upanishads like Kathopanishad, this word is used as the beginning of the spiritual process, that you have this a strong belief or strong faith in truth. You adhere to truth, faith in that sense, that you have strong adherence for truth. So that is called Shraddha, and thus it makes a dynamic faith that makes you go ahead. So this Shraddha awakens here. Everybody is, as human beings, most of us, whether we accept it or not, but we are believers. We believe in God. You can't get away from this fact, really. We believe in God, but although many would say, I believe in God, they really do not do anything about that belief. It is just dormant there. But when Shraddha awakens, you tell yourself, I must realize God. God, if God is real, then I must see God. I must actually experience God. Then that is Shraddha. So that awakens at this stage. This is most important chakra for spiritual aspirants. A lot of care and caution as well as determined spiritual practices need here, as the soul still feels the strong lower pulse too. This chakra is shown in front of the heart as 12-petaled lotus. Please remember, friends, one more thing that I would like to tell here, that in the scriptures of Tantra, Yoga, again Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, in Vedanta, these symbols, they differ. In some book you will find 12 petals, in some book you will find 10 or 15 or whatever. But that is not important. I am giving one description as it is given in the tantric scriptures that we follow in our day-to-day worship. So in that this description is given, but there are variants of this. Now the Kundalini is rising. Now it takes another big leap from here, from this anahata. Anahata means that word means not hurt, not injured, not hit upon. So the next one is called Vishuddha. The soul acquires, the spiritual awareness becomes stable and established here. Now there is serene bliss and peace experienced. You will see that a saintly aura around that person all the time. That person is so full of peace that you experience peace in the company of that person. Because that is just emanating from there. Like these lights, they automatically, because they are lighted, they scatter light, so that such a person keeps on scattering spirituality. The lower propensities do not have much sway at this station, yet there is the possibility of fall from here too if one is not cautious. And the cause of the fall here is ego of spiritual progress, and resultant complacency could still spell doom for spiritual aspirants. And so one has to be cautious about these things. Stop not till the goal is reached. That's what Swami Vivekananda says, that arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. You all know in these kindergarten books the story of how a tortoise won the race against a hare. Because the hare went ahead and then thought, that tortoise, it's not going to reach at all. I have already won, and thus decides to take a nap, and then wakes up to find that the tortoise has already won the race. So therefore, we should be very careful. Do not stop till the goal is reached. One should be always up and doing in this spiritual struggle. And then that idea that let us not, because the ego grabs, I am a spiritually elevated person. And then that is the descent begins. You might have gone up. One of our Swami used to therefore say nicely that you may be on a very high step, but if your face is downwards, then you will start climbing down, and somebody may be at the first step, but if the face is up, that fellow will start climbing up. So therefore, it is important to keep up that struggle and to practice humility. In Upanishads, especially in the Kena Upanishad, you have that beautiful story about how the angels, they, although were victorious, they became puffed up, and therefore they met a big fall. And then there is the state of illumination, state of samadhi. Samadhi means you really see the divinity. Now you have no doubt absolutely whatever that God is. You see God, you talk to God, you feel the divine presence in and all around you. That is called Ajna Chakra. It is shown as a two-petal lotus right between the eyebrows. And because you see God there, it is sometimes called the place of the third eye. The soul goes into deep concentration here. The awareness of the true self removes the false perception of the world, and there is no more any struggle. There is nothing more to struggle. You have realized the truth. There is no I left. There is still one step to go, but you are not going to go. It will happen now. Your ego has subsided. Now you are not doing it. Sri Ramakrishna used to give that nice example. I can convert it into the example of car. That suppose you want to stop at some place while driving, then you don't keep on driving till that point. You release your foot from the gas pedal because the car already has the momentum. What you need to do is only press the brake pedal so that it doesn't go and hit there too hard. So it is like that. It will be carried by the momentum now. It is you are not doing it anymore. That ego is so subdued, so annihilated that now it is not doing anything. So Sri Ramakrishna has very nice thoughts about this, that it is a soul goes into deep concentration. The awareness of the true self removes the false perception of the world, and there is no more any struggle. Soul enters into samadhi. There is still a thin, transparent screen between I and God, as Sri Ramakrishna describes the mystic experience. He gives also the analogy like you have a lantern. Now there is the flame, but there is the glass around it. So you are not able to touch the flame. You see the flame, but because of the glass there, you cannot actually touch that flame. Why so? Because there is that glass. So it is Sri Ramakrishna has given many other ideas also about this. And then the next is Sahasrara, the final burst of total liberation. And the state is beyond all verbal descriptions. It cannot have any description as such here. It has gone beyond the scope of words, scope of thought. Infinite power and bliss shown as the 1,000-petal lotus in the brain. So this is how the Kundalini travels. It is through conscious efforts, and it could get awakened by some other processes also. Those one should be cautious about it. One is accidental awakening of the Kundalini. One should be cautious because these are dangerous things. Suddenly a burst of power could destroy the life because your life is not ready to hold that power, that awareness. It is like the explosion in a boiler. Too much power got generated, there was not proper outlet, and then the boiler pot therefore just exploded. So the personality can get exploded if it is just an accidental awakening. There is no corresponding discipline to build the life, and thus a very important idea here is to be noted that then there are drugs. Patanjali mentions that to caution, and not that many they read Patanjali's yoga aphorisms, read this aphorism and think that Patanjali prescribes or supports use of those drugs for getting that so-called hallucinating that state of that fantasies. But that is what Patanjali mentions in the next aphorisms. It is not seen there. That these are not to be supported. These can shatter somebody's life. as we see. I have seen some cases like that, and therefore those ways by which the Kundalini is awakened should not be done. One has to follow the proper teacher and the path shown by that teacher, and go as the scriptures and the sages have gradually awakened their Kundalini and thus fulfilled their life. This is the total description given in a very brief manner. There are lots of books on this. I would suggest you to read in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. At many places there is this description. He himself says how in different motions how his Kundalini rises and so forth, and how at each chakra what experiences come. That also he has described very beautifully. Since we do not have time today for all that, I conclude my talk here with the suggestion or request to you, all of you to read some of these original books from Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Upanishads. There is one Upanishad called Kundalini Upanishad. And in other Upanishads and works you will find very nice descriptions of this process of sadhana or spiritual practice. So, thank you, friends.